Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2024 Candidate Forum for the ARIN Board of Trustees elections. I'd like to thank all of our candidates for joining us today to participate in this forum and all of the folks tuning in to
Can you hear
watch.
me okay?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2024 Candidate Forum for the ARIN Board of Trustees
that's wild.
elections. I'd like to thank Just fix that. Sorry, everyone. Forgot I had something up on another screen. With that, glitch aside, hopefully we've gotten all of the goofs out of the way up front. I'd like to welcome our host and moderator, ARIN's General Counsel, Michael Abuela. Michael, would you like to come on camera and explain how this is going to work today?
Yes. Okay.
All right, turning it over to you.
Thank you, Hollis. All right. Well, again, welcome to everybody to this 2024 Board of Trustees Candidate Forum. As Hollis said, I'm Michael Abuela, General Counsel for ARIN, and I'll be your moderator today. I wanted to thank our candidates for attending today, as well as our community members that'll be watching this live or will be viewing it recording later on. This forum was in part due to community feedback requesting a little bit more engagement with our board candidates. So this is going to be a bit of a casual interaction, hopefully to let the community get to know our candidates a little bit better and help them make an informed decision when it's time to vote. A couple of housekeeping items. Each candidate, I'm going to give about 1 minute. So you'll see a timer pop up. Our candidates will see a 6-minute timer. And I'm going to ask that no more than 1 minute for introductions, then will be followed by about 5 minutes of Q&A. Now, this is meant to not be a debate. We're not trying to have people kind of answering to each other. So the questions were not set in advance. We didn't provide them to the candidates in advance. These are going to be questions that were taken from the candidate bios or even from their introduction that you'll be hearing them say. We will not have any questions taken from the audience, so we do have a little limited amount of time. We're going to try to get through this as quickly as we can, but give everybody an opportunity to speak. We will try to be very fair on this with the 6 minutes. So at the end of the 6 minutes, we are going to ask that will be ending, and as moderator, I'll just cut it off at that point. So definitely please try to keep in mind the timer as it's counting down. We have a random set of order for our candidates for today. And the first one, if we can just go right into it, is going to be with David Zumwalt. So if we could bring David on, and then once the timer is up, it'll start counting down as soon as you start speaking with your introduction. So David, welcome, and why don't you introduce yourself to the community?
Good day, ARIN community. I feel very privileged to be here. I'm actually right now at WISPApalooza. I'm the president and CEO of WISPA. This is our big trade show in Las Vegas every year, and so this forum has caught me at a very opportune time in this little interval that we have here together. ARIN is represented here, as you may know, because ARIN supports the members in our community, which are comprised of ISPs across North America. I'm delighted to be able to join you today because ARIN's mission is so important to the service provider community for everything that community is doing to move internet connectivity and broadband applications forward. We've been mutual supporters, ARIN of WISPA and WISPA of ARIN in the past. And so I look forward to the opportunity to serve you if I'm elected, and I am asking for your vote.
Thank you for that, David. So with your experience at WISPA, what perspective will you bring to the ARIN Board of Trustees that will benefit the overall community?
So our service providers, for example, range from very, very small. They have subscribers of around 250, sometimes less, all the way up to ISPs that have over 100,000 subscribers, and they're geographically distributed across the U.S. They're supported by a vendor community that's making it possible for them to continue to meet needs as broadband demand continues to grow across all technologies. So although WISPA has been historically associated with the wireless industry, some level of wireless is involved in delivery, our members have a lot of fiber being deployed right now in the digital divide. And these are the hometown ISPs, regardless of size. So when you think about ARIN's mission and the mission to be able to serve a very diverse group of service providers who are meeting needs in very, very different communities, very different needs. I think that's the perspective that WISPA can bring, that I could bring to the board that would be.
You mentioned engaging with ARIN in the past. How has ARIN helped, and how do you see, particularly if you were to be elected to the board, how ARIN could continue to help in that regard?
ARIN is very attentive of the needs of our members, and so they're here. They have a presence at our shows. They have 2 a year, and they're looking for ways to solve problems that sometimes have to do with addressing, sometimes have to do with understanding some unique network needs that exist where you have different networks that are coming together, trying to be bridged, across multiple providers that are collaborating. So ARIN is a very popular presence at our shows because they're able to very quickly address trouble spots or issues that have come up in networks. And so our members always look forward to ARIN's presence. They have a kiosk right here at Grove.
Excellent. Looking through your bio, you mentioned your governance experience, and one important aspect of that is underscoring the importance differentiating between board and operational roles. Could you elaborate on that a bit?
Yes. So I think some boards, not referring to ARIN at all here, so please don't misunderstand the context, but some boards have evolved from the very startup of organizations where they're used to being involved operationally in day-to-day affairs. And the good news is, in many cases, you have board members who have experience that is directly relevant to whatever the organization is doing. But the proper role for a board is to provide oversight, leadership, strategy, engagement, collaboration, sometimes with outside entities, whereas the day-to-day functioning of an organization is relying on the excellence of the team. So it's very important for the board to recognize that although it has oversight responsibility for an operating team, it's the operating team that's going to make things happen. And so the best fit in any organization that I've experienced is where you have a board that knows its function, that works collaboratively with operating leadership, but allows the operating leadership to do exactly what they have been recruited and installed to do.
Excellent. What do you see as one of the most important issues for the ARIN community to tackle during your term on the Board of Trustees if you were to be elected in the next 3 years?
Well, I know this has been talked about a lot in the past, but for example, address spacing, IPv4, IPv6, this is something that continues to sort of delight and challenge, everyone, but taking it out of that realm for a minute, just looking at what we're trying to connect, both the applications and the devices that are being brought onto a network, the demands that those represent or create for service providers, consumers and businesses are trying to figure out how to make all this happen in a world where cybersecurity concerns are growing. Now, I've thrown a lot of words at the answer to the question, but when you think about who's going to be trying to attack those sorts of issues, who's going to be in a leadership role to identify what comes next, it's going to be organizations like ARIN that get it done. And so, again, the reason that I'm delighted to have the opportunity to serve as a candidate is that I think that ARIN is going to be in the middle of this and leading it, whether we're talking about address spaces or we're talking about fundamentally how we make networks work better within the scope of ARIN's responsibility.
And look at that, right at the time, it's 6 minutes. So thank you so much, David. Oh, you even got the Oscar music a little bit. So
all right.
So,
with your
so
permission, I'm going to drop off and say thanks for all the other candidates. And but you're going to hear a lot more noise if I stick on the line. So I'll look forward to following up and reporting later. And thank you again for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. All right. So that was our first candidate session. And the next one coming up is Chris Tacit. So Chris, if you could come online.
Okay. I'm here.
All right. So you have about 1 minute, please, for your introduction to the ARIN community, and then we'll get to the Q&A part.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all very much for taking this election so seriously and watching this webinar. I think it's important for community members to make an informed decision when they vote. So my own background is multidisciplinary technical business and law. I have a significant amount of corporate governance experience, and I've been involved in this community for quite a while now, and also served on the AC for 9 years. I've been a mentor to fellows, and I've been on various committees. So I think I have a pretty good understanding of ARIN, its mission, the community, the members, and the challenges ahead. And I think I bring a really good set of skills to address those things based on my overall experience, background, and training.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. So let's go to that experience. So you have experience on the ARIN Advisory Council. I know you've been on that body for a bit, and then now 1 year on the ARIN Board. How will you use those experiences to ensure a successful term as a member of the ARIN Board of Trustees if you were to be elected?
Sure. Thank you very much. Well, so the AC experience has gotten me to really understand more of the nuts and bolts of the organization, what matters to the community, to members and customers of ARIN, to see how the staff, which is really excellent at ARIN, is satisfying those needs. The perspective of the board is somewhat different, and I'm glad I've had the opportunity to serve this year. It's governance focused. As you know, we get the policies after they've been approved by the AC and adopted by the AC, and we just want to ensure that in giving them final approval, we are pursuing our fiduciary mandate, and that the PDP process has been followed. So it's a different mandate. It's an overall governance mandate, and I think what it's helped me to do is be very forward-thinking from a strategic perspective about the challenges that may face ARIN in the future, and the kind of measures and processes we have to have in place to deal with them, because we can't anticipate all of them now, but what we can do is harden our governance infrastructure as much as possible to be prepared to tackle those challenges going forward.
Okay. And you talk a little bit about challenges and things that might come up. And looking at your background, obviously one of the strong pieces that you bring is a legal background with your candidacy. Can you maybe elaborate a bit on why this is an important skill set and something that you bring to the ARIN Board of Trustees?
Sure, thank you. So I guess the legal training has done a few things for me. It gets me to think about, I try to think about issues from an objective standpoint, to really turn them around and look at all the different viewpoints, and then be able to hopefully articulate views on those, and also to build consensus. A lot of my practice has been working for associations, working for client groups, where building consensus has been important, and so has a lot of my board experience. On top of that, while involved in the legal profession, I developed a particular specialization in corporate governance. So I actually advise other clients and organizations on their governance practices. And oftentimes when I get those files, it's because the organizations are in crisis or the boards are in crisis. So it's kind of given me a very strong background and appreciation for the merits of good governance, and how to nurture that, because it's not just a question of starting out with the right mindset and structure. It's also a question of evolving it as circumstances change, and maintaining it so you don't lose what you have.
Excellent. And you mentioned one thing about consensus, and obviously that's very important, particularly with our community and the policy development process and just overall kind of interaction amongst each other. So what do you think is the most important kind of factor to help build consensus and bring consensus, especially amongst parties that are on opposite sides?
I think listening and making people feel acknowledged. There are the objective issues that one has to deal with in any kind of intellectual exercise, but the people side is just as important. And oftentimes, people can not hear each other, even though they may be saying things that are closer to each other than, if you stand back and look at it, or there are ways to bridge those differences because they're not listening carefully to each other and acknowledging each other. So for my part, I try very hard to listen to other people, to acknowledge where they're coming from, based on their experience, points of view, and method of analyzing the problem or the issue that's before us. And then trying to do my best to find common ground to solve whatever the issue is, or to move the organization ahead.
Look at that, right at the 6-minute time frame too. So thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate your time and everything and answering the questions. So and
Thank you,
good
Mike.
luck. Good luck
Take
with the
care.
election.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. And up next we have Mike Burns.
Hi, Mike.
All right. Well, Mike, if you could take about a minute to introduce yourself to the community, and then we'll get to our Q&A session.
Great, thanks. Well, I learned to program in '78, went to MIT, and then I founded the business that I still run today in 1986. And so I've been heavily involved in technology, as we've been an accounting systems purveyor, as well as an internet service provider, wireless provider, satellite provider. I have a lot of technical background. And in terms of ARIN, I got involved, well, I guess about 12 years ago in writing a transfer policy, which was a rewrite of the current one. And I learned a lot about consensus in eventually getting that policy approved and implemented. And since then, I've been a broker of IP addresses and have done that around the world. I'm a resource holder in ARIN and in RIPE, and I've also authored policy in LACNIC, which that was a tough one to reach consensus.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And so you talk about your experience being as a broker. So that kind of goes to my first question with your experience as an IPv4 and ASN broker. What perspectives in kind of, will you bring to the ARIN Board of Trustees, and how will that benefit the overall community?
Well, I think I do have a lot of experience understanding the entire IP addressing ecosystem, including, policy development, problems with policy that need to be changed, which I've done a couple of times. Also interacting with the other registries on a daily basis, with the analysts at the other registries, as well as ARIN, and with the higher level staff members at the other registries. And going to the meetings and meeting and interacting with the people, just transacting the daily business, gives me a very, very good understanding of potential problems I see on the horizon, and that's really what motivated my candidacy.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What potential problems do you see on the horizon that you're hoping to help address if you were to be elected to the Board of Trustees?
Last week, I received a questionnaire regarding changes to ICP2, and I can sense that the changes are necessary because of the situation in Afrinic, which is problematic, in which I have some personal understanding of and interaction with principals. So I feel I have a good understanding that there are going to have to be some changes in terms of potentially decertifying RIRs. And I'm worried that larger governmental organizations will view the stakeholder governance that we've accomplished so far as not being up to the task, with Afrinic as, exhibit number one. So I think my experience and my understanding globally will really help to kind of safeguard ARIN with moats around it where I could see problems.
So you talked about your experience with transfers and having been involved very early on. I know we've been at the same meetings for a number of years now, so I've definitely had experience with you. And with regard to transfers, what issues do you see? Because it's kind of evolved over the past 12 years, as you said. What issues do you see arising, particularly during your term, the next 3 years, if you were to be elected?
Well, I feel like policy is now at a pretty good place. I think the market is functioning well with the current policy environment. Um, but a couple of issues that could arise are address and resource flow based on registry shopping. In other words, addresses could flow into a registry because the dues are cheaper or the policies are more friendly. That could be an issue. It's a small market, and there could still be issues with collusion between buyers and sellers in the IPv4 market. And I'm very concerned also with the idea of a regulatory capture of ARIN, which functions as a regulator. The influx of money causes all kinds of different incentives. And I am concerned, and I was the last election I was nominated to be on the slate for the AC, but was denied a position on the slate. And I understood that was a way that regulatory capture can be exercised by excluding candidates who may not be desirable to the capturers. So that's an issue. And I think being kind of experience with ARIN, but also outside of ARIN, that I can provide a counterweight to any kind of regulatory capture that might be attempted.
Excellent. I know there's about 25 seconds. You talked about challenges to achieving consensus. What do you think is the most important part in trying to achieve consensus in this last 15 seconds?
Compromise. You really have to compromise. My first transfer policy, I didn't want a needs test, and I didn't want a 12-month waiting period. In my original proposal had neither of those, but the one that reached consensus had both. So you really have to compromise to get things done.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mike. As always, it's a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for your time today, and good luck with the election. So,
thanks.
Excellent. All right. And our next person up, I believe, is Ron De Silva.
Hey, Michael.
Okay. Hello, Ron. Just like with everybody else, if you could take just about a minute to introduce yourself to the community, and then we'll get to our Q&A session.
Yeah, happy to do so. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for staff for hosting this, and the community members that are here today live, and then also the rest of them that'll participate by watching this recorded at their leisure at a later time. So thank you for your interest in the election and the opportunity to be here. So that said, my background, I know a number of people in the community have been involved with ARIN for over 20 years. I served on the advisory council as chair. I represented ARIN on the NRO for a couple of terms, and then also represented the global numbering community on the ICANN board for 6 years. I have a career in building infrastructure, broadband, telecommunications, and data centers. Am familiar with being a user and end user and provider of addresses, and am sympathetic to the needs of the members of ARIN.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So first question I have for you is, you mentioned a varied experience with the ARIN AC, the NRO-NC, as well as the ICANN board. So with those experiences, what perspectives do you bring to the ARIN Board of Trustees that then will benefit the overall ARIN community as well?
Yeah, I think one of the key things I bring is a broader global perspective outside of the North American footprint of ARIN. And how's that benefit the board? Well, having a good sense and a network and relationships across the globe with not only the RIRs, but also other internet-related organizations, whether that's through internet society chapters, whether that's providers in other markets, whether that's even connections through the IETF or the ICANN. There's like an extensive relationship and network that I would bring to my role as a board director. that could benefit us as we address issues, need to work through problems that having that outside perspective could benefit.
Excellent. And so with your longstanding involvement, kind of historical involvement in the community, what do you see as an area where you will have the most impact during your term if you were to be elected?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Michael, there's two things. One, I bring strong technology and finance, and as a fiduciary of the organization, that would be a key component of what I would bring. I'm comfortable with dealing with numbers and helping provide some accountability on the finances of the organization. So that's a key asset I think I would bring is just a simple skill. But then, like I said earlier, the sort of the global perspectives and having a sense of I think Mike just brought this up in his comments about the AFRINIC, and I was there when AFRINIC was started and remember helping them in their formative years and the governance challenges that they've had and the litigation challenges that they're currently having. Like knowing those and being intimate with those are things that I can bring as addressing risks that ARIN wants to navigate, or how they would partner with their other RIRs or with ICP2, perhaps new and future RIRs, having that dynamic and understanding how to best equip ARIN to be successful in those kind of discussions are things that I would bring.
Okay. And going back again to your experience, but also looking at what you might want to do if you were to be elected to the ARIN Board of Trustees, what would you think are kind of one or two of the highlight accomplishments you had serving on those other bodies? Maybe, with time, maybe one, and then what is something you hope to accomplish during your term if you were to be elected?
Yeah, I was on the ICANN board for 6 years and chaired the finance committee for most of that time. That's definitely one area I'd want to bring, just financial accountability and good oversight and reporting to the membership on overall ARIN's health. That's an area that I think would be good. Another that I believe Chris had talked about generic governance requirements. One of the key things for boards is board succession planning, understanding where the terms are with existing members, what skill sets they currently have or are developing, what the board will lose when those members leave the board. Having that sort of sense of development in a pipeline of where do we have a good sustainable board of directors over a number of years, and training and development and ensuring we have the most accountable and effective board members are things that I've done on prior boards. I participated in ICANN. I led that on a credit union board that I'm currently sitting on. So those are some skills that are, I think, very important that could help make the board more effective.
Okay. And so with regard to kind of, you mentioned succession planning, how do you think that would be a good way to, we have a slate of candidates right now that are running, how would you look forward to the future and kind of get other people who might have the skill sets that we would need to be on the board? What kind of outreach and ways you would do that, do you think?
I think Michael, there are two pieces of that. There's the outreach part, if you will, the recruiting side of it. But I think before even going there, just the self-assessment, where are the current strengths of the board? Where are there gaps? Where are there areas where the board needs certain skill sets or experiences that aren't present, right? Having that sort of initial self-assessment of not only individually the board members, but also collectively the whole board would identify some of those. And I think you see that in the letter from the board, to the non-com, and that provides some guidance, and that's sort of the vehicle to do that in the future as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Ron. Thank you for your time and letting the community get to know you a little bit better. And good luck with the election this year. So,
thanks again.
Excellent. And so next we have Chris Roosenraad. Did I pronounce it Mike? Correctly? Excellent. So same deal. If you could take about a minute to introduce yourself to the community, and then we'll get into a little bit of Q&A.
Sure. So for those of you not familiar with my background, I've got over 25 years in building broadband networks, starting with internet over cable in the US, and then doing work on building networks in Germany and in Singapore, and up to my most recent position as the Chief Information Security Officer at Google Fiber aka G Fiber. So, experience in sort of the whole life cycle of what makes a modern ISP. In addition to during that time, I served as a period of time as a division CISO and chief architect for Capital One Bank, and I also ran the internet service Ultra DNS for several years. So that's sort of on the day-to-day, what pays my paycheck side of the house. I've also got many years of nonprofit governance under my belt. I was chairman of another 501c6 organization, such as similar to ARIN in MOG, the large anti-spam, international anti-spam group. I served on the board for several years of the Technology Coalition Against Online Child Sexual Exploitation. I'm an advisor to the board for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And so during those time, and that included during the recent financial unpleasantness of the Great Recession, it gave me an opportunity to really develop skills in how to run a nonprofit organization effectively, how to run the governance of the business and make sure that the business is enabled to achieve its goals. As a 501c6, ARIN's mandate is a little different than your traditional nonprofit in that it is organized and incorporated to develop the benefit of all of the members of ARIN. And so how you as a board facilitate that and how we enable that is a big part of what you need to do as a board member.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for that. Well, Chris, you mentioned your experience a bit, and you kind of already segued into a little bit of my first question, but with your experience with MOG and the Technology Coalition, what perspectives from those experiences do you bring that would be of benefit to the ARIN Board of Trustees as well as to the overall ARIN community?
So the primary experience that I learned from running those is that the role of the board, of a well-functioning board, is to enable the business to do the business. And what I mean by that is the board is responsible for making sure that there's business continuity, that that the finances are well managed, that there is appropriate staffing, that the staff has got succession planning, and all of those other sort of corporate governance aspects. The board is not responsible for developing policy. That's why we have the AC. The board is not responsible for managing day-to-day operations. That's what the employees are for. The board is for providing that high-level governance. And so focusing on those tasks and making sure that you are enabling the business to do what it needs to do and making sure that you're getting risks and other things out of the way so that the business can operate is how a board is effective. And the more that the board dives deep, the more you risk them losing that larger picture.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to turn a little bit to the kind of security aspect of your experience and, part of it with MOG, but just overall, how do you see ARIN and its role in the overall security environment?
There's a critical aspect of ARIN, which ARIN is diving fully into with the RPKI work that they're doing as far as the larger internet infrastructure is concerned. But there's also the aspects of how ARIN defends itself. ARIN is a target, and we've already mentioned, several of the previous speakers have mentioned Afrinic. So we know that the RIRs are targets in a number of ways: legal, cybersecurity, regulatory capture, et cetera. And so how you build a comprehensive risk management program that is able to protect ARIN from these different risks, cybersecurity being a big component of it, is going to be a critical aspect of how ARIN is able to continue to function, despite the fact that it is very much a target in the modern world.
Right. And you bring an interesting point to that, is that you still have to be able to do the business while protecting yourselves from kind of attacks on different fronts. What are some aspects that you think is a key components for a strategy to manage that kind of balance?
Well, I mean, there's an acknowledgement that a risk is a risk, and it may be from different areas, it may be from different types of exposure to the business, but understanding how you are measuring risk, how you're calculating risk, how you are developing contingency plans to handle those risks, that you are acknowledging that a risk may be relatively unlikely, but can have a catastrophic impact on the business, and then how are you responding accordingly. And so having a good functioning risk committee, having a good functioning risk oversight aspect from a board is going to be critical to enabling the business to be able to meet those risks, whatever they might be.
Excellent. And so I think we have time for one more question. If you're to be elected and you get a 3-year term, well, what do you hope to accomplish during that term?
I hope to, I hope to leave ARIN in a stronger place than when I joined. And so I hope to be able to enable ARIN to meet those risks, to be able to ARIN to be able to identify them, be able to process them, be able to address them. And then also I hope to be able to enable ARIN from a financial perspective, to be able to withstand whatever negative winds are going to be coming their way, be it more inflation or whatever is coming next. And so having experience in running boards during significant financial impact, I think gives me a great position to be able to enable ARIN to do their business.
Right on the Oscar music. So, well, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and to answer some of the questions, and definitely wish you best of luck with the election this year. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and I think we have next up is John Brown, if that's correct.
Trying to turn on my audio. There we go.
There we are. Hello, John. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So just with everybody else, if you could take about a minute to introduce yourself to the community, and then we'll get to some questions.
Certainly. First of all, thank you to everybody, both staff and folks that are out in the global internet watching this. My name is John Brown. I am also here in Vegas at WISPApalooza, the Wireless ISP Association's annual conference. Having been somebody that's been doing technology since 1976, got my first computer when in 1978, 79, we got an Apple computer, and have been basically a geek sort of ever since. Been an operator of a couple of ISPs over my lifetime, mostly focusing on the rural and smaller provider space, as opposed to, billions of subscribers. We dealt with thousands of subscribers, and have certainly seen the change of technology over the years. Resource holder prior to ARIN, back in the good old internet days, and then was around as ARIN was formulated and came out of the ground, and served a brief time on the ARIN AC as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. So going into our first question, I'm kind of going to go off of your historical experience and the extensive experience you said, because you've clearly been in the industry for a while. So with that experience, what issues do you see arising in the coming years, particularly during a 3-year term if you were elected to the Board of Trustees?
I think one of the biggest issues that is in my mind is, as some of the other candidates have talked about, is capture. What we're seeing happening in AFRINIC, and some of the things that tried to play out with an APNIC over the last couple of years, brings a certain level of concern and, to me, an elevated risk for an organization such as ARIN, not only from just how it impacts service providers, but even up into including a national security issue.
So with that, and if you were to elected to the board, what are some things that you could see trying to kind of spearhead or do to address the issue of capture?
I think we need to make sure that, first and foremost, our organizational documents, our formation documents, our structure, and how the organization operates is well vetted, and we play out some tabletop games, maybe to some extent, of, well, what would be potential threat vectors, and where are the risks? How could somebody come in and ostensibly capture the organization from either an elective process, putting people on the AC, putting people on the board, from a financial perspective, working with transfer policies or trying to subvert the reasonable working transfer policies that we have. So it's a multi-spectrum kind of a thing we need to look at.
Excellent. So looking at your bio, I think you referenced community participation as kind of an essential component to ensure that ARIN remains strong, and it probably plays in a little bit to the anti-capture piece as well. So how would you maintain or increase community participation, or try to do so during your term if you were to be elected?
It's a great question. I think ARIN, over the last few years, has done a yeoman's work in getting out into the community more, and I think we need to further that. Certainly, ARIN having a booth here at WISPA and at other events are quite useful, but there's a lot of smaller events that happen across the country and across ARIN space, And I think it's well worth the effort, both monetarily and time-wise, for ARIN to proactively be in that space, human there, somebody there talking about what's going on, what are the issues, listening to the community, and then bringing that back, whether that's staff, that's AC members, that's board members, or combination. So really getting out and soliciting active involvement and continuing that process is, I think, critical.
So you've definitely seen because I know that our outreach team does quite a few events throughout the year, and from it sounds like you believe that this is something that's been effective. Like, do you see that people who otherwise would not have been engaged would then somehow actually participate after that?
Absolutely. I mean, just case in point, today we did a talk earlier today. I held a panel about network security, and one of the things I talked about was RPKI, and stated to the audience, if you have questions about RPKI, go to the ARIN booth. And literally, as I wandered back over, there were several people at the ARIN booth that were in our talk asking about RPKI. So having that as an authoritative subject expert place to go is highly useful.
And how do you see RPKI in terms of just generally speaking, as well as overall in the strategy for ARIN moving forward?
I think the benefits for RPKI is it allows certainly, the constituency that I'm trying to appeal to, the smaller mid-sized rural type ISP is allows them to be able to attest that this is our space, this is our resources, numeric resources, and as such, that helps prevent them from capture of those resources by a threat actor, and it also helps their business from being attacked that way.
And you mentioned that constituency as a final question in the last like 20 seconds is, so with that, what's a main issue that you think, other than that the constituency would be interested in and that you could help support?
Literally from this event this week, I've had people come up to me and talk about trying to figure out ways of being able to make use of legacy IP space, pre-ARIN allocated space that a governmental entity or other entity would have, be able to further economic development in their community. And they're getting pushback on that from ARIN. So what is that pushback, and how do we create a consensus policy to allow those resources to be freed if they were?
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much, John, for your time and for answering the questions and for being here for the community. So I definitely wish you luck in the election, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate the support and the vote. Have a great day.
You too. All right, next up we have Adrian, I believe, is next on the list.
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Adrian. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well, thank you. So just like with everybody else, if you could take a minute to introduce yourself to the community.
Yes, of course. My name is Adrian Schmidt. I was born in Argentina, all the way south. And I had an interesting experience because I've been working in way too many different fields. I worked for the government for 6 years, coming with a strong technical background. My kids will say I'm just too old, but that's okay. But I've been the one developing the first TCP/IP networks in Argentina. We had a special time when we used to talk UUCP. Some of the older people on this call might remember those times where we did email differently, but that was fun. And I'm coming from electronic engineer, so really strong technical background, but I became working with IT more and more. I can bring multicultural experience because I live in Asia, in the Philippines for 3 years. There I became a little bit more human because I did my master in business. So I can talk the language of business, very interested on how to run organizations. And right now I've been serving the one nonprofit. It's called the Seventh-day Adventist Church at the world headquarters here in Maryland. So that's kind of my last 30 years of life in 1 minute, 10 seconds.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for that. So I noticed in your, looking at your bio that you were an ARIN fellow before as well. So can you tell us about your experience and how this led you to running for the ARIN Board of Trustees?
Yes. Let me do a little bit of confession, and probably Chris will not remember, but he was my mentor 10 years ago, and he invited me for lunch. Thank you, Chris. You did a great job there introducing me to ARIN. That was not my first ARIN meeting. I actually did an ARIN on the road before that when they decide to go to Alberta. They need to be really brave to come to Alberta, especially in winter, because you don't have highways, you just have ice. But that was a great experience, and I became more and more involved in the community. Some part of ICANN, through ARIN, sorry, I became a fellow twice. And lately I've been more involved trying to see how we can participate more on ARIN. And the opportunity came for the Board of Trustees, and I said, well, this may be a good experience. Just to let you know, I'm actually involved with ICANN as well, and I'm part of Naralo, being the actual secretary, so I'm serving on that side as well.
Well, it's like you forecasted a segue into my second question, because I was going to say that, and you mentioned experience with the government, but also I saw that you have experience with Naralo. So what has that given you in terms of perspectives that you can bring to the ARIN Board of Trustees and kind of to the overall ARIN community?
Yeah. Naralo, for the ones that might not exactly know, is part of the at-large community. That's a community that represents all of us as individuals. And we kind of feel that we are the smaller brother in a way of a big family of ICANN ecosystem, but we are the one who speak the loudest in a way, even if we don't have many positions on the ICANN board, because we represent all of us, actual users of the internet. So that brought me the perspective of challenges, people suffering for access and willing to do more. I became in Canada very interested about the native communities and the challenge that they have accessing the resources. And if I can complete kind of the picture that I'm trying to bring, is I see my dad, who's 91 now, and they do have the same challenges, but for them accessibility is difficult. So I'm bringing all these different parts. But specifically for Naralo, yes, the view from the actual users, not the big corporations, not the nonprofit, but yes, the users of the internet on their day-to-day activities.
And that's an interesting perspective, because, you know, with ARIN, you know, its customers and the registrants and the WHOIS registry are typically, you know, organizations and not necessarily the individual users. So how do you see your role if you've had that experience with the at-large community? If you were to be elected to the ARIN board, how do you parlay that? How do you connect the two together?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Mike. I see that bringing a little bit of this perspective that needs to be done from ARIN, of course, because we do deal with higher oversight things, but without forgetting that the main purpose of ARIN and one of the main objectives is to provide internet to everybody. So we shouldn't be forgetting that. As we deal with the big issues, the policies and governance, we should not forget that the reason the internet exists is for serving everybody. If it wasn't for them, even the big corporations will not exist. So that's what I'm planning to bring, the perspective of the a little bit less heard people, that is all of us.
Mm-hmm. And so if you were to be elected, what is something that you hope to accomplish during that 3-year term? You know, if you were to be able to make it onto the Board of Trustees, what do you hope to accomplish?
Thank you for the question. And I've been thinking about that, if the question was going to come. I don't have the questions, but you kind of come with a similar question for all the candidates. Mm-hmm. That's a great question. One of the things that I bring, because of my electronics background, is a lot of perspective or interest on having a solid infrastructure. I've been also very interested on the cyber security side. So I wanted to make sure, and I know that we are just an advisor and oversight role is not operational, but I want to make sure that ARIN has the resources to make sure that the organization is strong and security is important.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adrian, for your time and for answering my questions. And just like everybody else, I wish you the best of luck in this year's election, and hopefully we'll get to chat again soon. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. And then next up, I think we have Peter.
Hey, everybody.
Okay. How are you, Peter?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and I'm glad that I'm here.
Absolutely. We're happy that you're here. And just like with everybody else, if we could have you give about a 1-minute introduction to the community.
Certainly. I'm the co-founder of Colovor, a carrier-neutral co-location company that focuses on high-performance computing. I have prior industry experience in IT management with Netflix, Google, and eBay. My board experience includes my work with the Palisades Foundation that provides outreach to young software engineering professionals from around the world. I've been a trustee for the past 6 years and I'm seeking re-election. I've been on many ARIN board committees as an engaged trustee. This includes the FinCom, NomCom, Risk and Cybersecurity Committee, and the Governance Committee. I've chaired or co-chaired many of these. In addition to this, I have over 15 years working experience in the Caribbean in tech, the public sector, bilateral trade promotion, fast-moving consumer goods, and healthcare. And this was assisted by my MBA degree. With this experience, I have a good understanding of the various ARIN stakeholders, both direct and indirect, and I'm looking forward to serving the community as our work has such great indirect and direct socio-economic impact on the region.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And kind of parlaying a little bit from your intro, my first question is that I've had the opportunity to work with you for the past 2 terms on the ARIN Board of Trustees. Well, almost a full 2 terms. We're at the end of the 2nd term, and I know that you're seeking your 3rd term. So, what would you highlight as your greatest accomplishment during your time on the Board of Trustees thus far? And then what do you hope to accomplish with the 3rd term?
Very good question. The biggest thing that I have worked on with the board has been my work on the governance committee. It started out with the governance working group, and from there we started to do community consultations on expanding the size of the board for improved oversight, adding new oversight as well with a risk and cybersecurity committee. We've done a number of modifications with such as having additional term limits on the board. And because of this, some of the concerns of capture have been reduced, but not necessarily eliminated. And I would like to see how my work with the governance committee can improve ARIN's sustainable involvement in the community so that we can reach higher heights.
Excellent. And so we've seen a common theme a little bit that other people have mentioned, capture. Could you elaborate a bit on that and what we are trying to hopefully prevent?
We're trying to see how we can prevent, like many of the others have mentioned, ways, opportunities in which persons or organizations with interests that are counter to the ideals of the ARIN community and the mission and vision of the organization have less likelihood of being successful. And because of this, we are always having to be vigilant as a board and therefore take these things into consideration. Of course, we don't take these considerations in a vacuum. We have to do outreach and consultations as well. But we are in a much better place than we were 3 or 4 years ago, now that we have a dedicated committee to provide insights into this particular area.
Right, and we'll definitely have to do a lot of engagement with the community on that as well to try to ensure that. So looking at your bio, one of the things that you highlighted was a strong experience in the ARIN service region with all levels of government and industry. And so I wanted to kind of ask you to elaborate a bit on that and how that experience helps to be a successful board member, or how you would parlay that into contributing to the ARIN Board of Trustees.
Thank you. That's another very good question. You have alluded to it. I do have a multifaceted experience that I feel will assist ARIN's governance oversight challenges. In addition to capture, I feel that ARIN's biggest challenge is transition. People who started their careers at the beginning of the internet are starting to leave. IPv6 adoption will accelerate this, will create new disruptions in the industry. Recovery from the long-term challenges with Afrinic will be top of mind. Updates to ICP2 will have expected and unexpected consequences. And these transitions will all happen simultaneously. And therefore, the board is going to have to evaluate these industry challenges using time-tested strategies. Things that come to mind would be Porter's 5 forces model, the power of vendors, clients, new entrants, technological innovation, industry rivalry, etc. The AC works capably in guiding policy. The ARIN staff is equally capable in in its tech decisions. However, these are very well-defined challenges. The transitions that I've mentioned are fluid. The board will need to assess its gaps more critically when guiding the NOMCOM. We will need to investigate new areas of expertise in the broad function areas of business, legal, HR, finance, marketing, macroeconomics, and others. And I have experience in navigating change in the board. I co-chair the governance committee, as I mentioned, where I spoke about term limits, more board members, increased oversight, and I've chaired the NOMCOM. I've also chaired the Risk and Cyber Committee and have voluntarily stepped down from that chair to aid in transition. So there's ample proof of my commitment to transitions in a very orderly and stable way. And this is going to be one of the challenges that I will be addressing in my next term.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for your time and being able to do this Q&A for the community. And I wish you well in the upcoming election.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And I think next we have Will. Right.
Hello.
There he is. Okay. How are you, Will?
I'm well, thank you.
So just as the name, if you could take a minute to introduce yourself to the community.
Sure. My name is Will Charnock. I started my career in the 90s helping build a regional ISP in Dallas, which is when I first got engaged with ARIN and with the community in general. I've spent the last 25 years bouncing from startup to startup, had some success, some failures, but always been in the internet infrastructure realm. I've served as a board member for NANOG. I did that for 5 years. And I took a break from some of the governance, board level governance work it grinds on you. So I felt like I needed a break, stepped away and was approached about throwing my name in the hat for this. And I felt like I had enough of a break to get back involved in governance in the community. I care very deeply about the community. ARIN plays a critical role in the functioning of the internet, which is what I've been doing for the last 25 years. And so, yeah, if I can be of assistance, I'd like to be, and I'd ask for the votes of folks who think I could help. So.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So maybe we'll go with kind of one of the last things you said is ARIN's role and everything. What do you see as ARIN's role kind of going into the future? Particularly if you were to be elected during your term, but maybe even past the 3 years. How do you see ARIN's role in kind of the overall ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, historically, obviously, as one of the registries that have been assigned sort of the ownership of looking after specific resources on the internet, and then that role broadening over time. I think I've stood sort of at the edge of policy for many years because intentionally, frankly, I just had too much work to do to really understand a lot of the policy that was going on. I think from a governance standpoint, what I bring to the table is having, again, been part of some startups, founder, sat on many boards, both nonprofit as well as profit-based boards. I've also been subject to various boards. I feel like from a governance perspective, I bring a lot of good experience. And I think that really, as I look ahead, the role of the registries could change, and maybe they need to change. But I also believe that as part of this ecosystem, their primary charters need to maintain strong. They need to continue, and they need to be strengthened to be able to continue to look after the resources that they've been asked to look after.
Excellent, thank you. So looking at your experience and with NANOG and OpenIX, from those experiences, what perspectives do you bring to the ARIN board, and how would those benefit the overall ARIN community into like the voting community?
Yeah, I think there were different challenges with each of those orgs. I think with NANOG, one of the challenges that we were given was how do we strengthen the organization and create a foundation that allows the organization to navigate the future, if you will, on strong financial grounds. We also wanted to implement some programs that allowed us to strengthen the community. Somebody mentioned earlier that a lot of the graybeards like me, who've been doing this a while, are starting to retire or leave the industry. And we've asked the question for many years, like, who's next? Who's going to step up and take ownership of this and continue the work that we've been part of to make sure that these organizations are strong going ahead? And I think, again, from a governance perspective, that's a key element of a board of trustees, is to ensure that the folks that are coming up behind are ready to step in and take the reins over the organization, and to make sure that the organization is positioned from a position of strength looking ahead, so that they're not faced with, whatever winds come our way, that we have sort of that foundational strength in place to weather those.
And so obviously that transition piece has come up now a couple of times amongst, the candidates. What do you see as kind of an effective way, or maybe one aspect that helps to have strong transition, that, like you said, you helped with kind of building a strong foundation, looking to the future? What are some aspects that you can see that would help with that transition and, set up the organization for success in the future?
Yeah, I think part of it is looking, again, I don't believe a board should micromanage an organization. I think they need to let the individuals who run the organization. But I also think part of the responsibility of a board is to look at sort of what is your charter, and are you built and structured in a way to achieve the goals that are laid out within your charter? And so I think looking at sort of organizationally, are the things that you're doing the things that you should be doing in order to have a strong organization? And then secondarily, financially, you need to ensure that you're on a firm foundation financially as well. We talked at length about some of the things that may happen at Nanog. COVID came, the work that we had done paid off, even though it was controversial with many of the members. In the end, it ended up being the right decision. I think that's what a board's supposed to do, is make the right decisions for the organization, no matter whether they're popular with the members or not. So,
excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for answering my questions today. And again, wish you luck on the upcoming election. So,
all right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. All right. And next, I think we have Altie.
Hi, good day.
Hi, Altie. How are you?
I'm doing good. Is my background a little noisy because I'm in the office, or it's good?
Yeah, we can hear you. There's a little bit of background noise, but we can hear you. So, all right. So just with everybody else, if you could take a minute to introduce yourself to the ARIN community, and then we'll get into some questions.
All right. So my name is Altie Jackson. I am currently the Senior Capacity Planning Engineer for one of the largest telecommunications company within Latin America and the Caribbean. That's Liberty Latin America. Now, in my current role, I oversee the content delivery network, which we call the caching network, where out of that I manage the operations for 18 different countries that we are controlled by ARIN. Also, on the next side of my role, I do the capacity planning for our core internet infrastructure. And for my board experience, I currently sit on the Church International Board as the board member, where we oversee 7 different churches within the world, different countries. So I dare implore you all that you vote for me, Altie Jackson, to be your board trustee member.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Altie. So first question is kind of a more general one, so what led you to come run for the ARIN Board of Trustees, and what do you hope to accomplish if you're elected?
Because I oversee the caching network, one of my greatest charges is to ensure that in every market we're in, we're caching. And from that, the vendors, the content delivery vendors, they reached out to me and said, hey, you need to run for ARIN Board. You're involved in the community. You're pretty involved. We see this as the best fit for you. What I'm trying to achieve is that one of our biggest issues in the Caribbean, speaking from my telecoms and other telecoms companies, that we are pretty low on IPv6 uptake. We are also not having our RPKI done or ROA done. So I'm coming to ensure that discharge is lead on this side. When you compare the stats compared to the US and the Canada, back in the Caribbean, we're pretty low. So I'm coming to ensure that discharge is lead, because internet resources is a key, and this is one of ARIN's key mission, ensure that we have IPv4, IPv6 availability, and the RPKI are done, security is there.
And so why do you think in the Caribbean that it is such a low uptake? Are there things that you feel are the reasons for this and that can be addressed if you were on the ARIN Board of Trustees?
So one of the biggest reasons I see is that ARIN, I think, based upon what I get on signs, that the involvement within the Caribbean is not that much in the Caribbean community within the telecom space. I was recently notified by one of our content delivery that, hey, if your prefix are not validated, we will not be passing the traffic. And when I started to do checks around all 27 countries that I oversee, they're saying that they didn't know of this. So when I started to draw the money that, hey, we have to ensure these are done, they're saying that they're not known, they're not aware, ARIN doesn't send them any email, they don't get anything. So one thing that I'm trying to bring, what I will bring to this, is ensure that involvement in the community is key. It's just like a church. ARIN, for me, ARIN and the church is the same organization. It's a two different goals. ARIN focused on internet governance, the church is spiritual governance. Now, when you look at it, is that we are non-profit and we have to involve in the community because we're member based. If we're not involved in the community, no one knows about us. So we, as ARIN, what I'm looking to drive, ensure that we are involved, we're out there, information is there. When lack of knowledge, a person will suffer. When they know, they will not suffer. They will know what to do. They will know how to approach.
So what types of strategies or things can be done for that kind of involvement in the community? What are things that you foresee, particularly that could be done during your term as a member of the board?
I foresee that as telecoms company, we have different events. We have different engagements, and I will hoping to have ARIN involved in those different engagements. Once the business is involved, ARIN is involved, information will be shared. The right persons will be reached.
Okay. And so what strengths do you bring to the ARIN Board that you can demonstrate during your term if you were to be elected?
So being involved in a telecoms company, in my role, you get to have a full lay of legal side, where I'm overseeing the contracts for the vendors and ensure that the legal part is pretty good. Overseeing the governance operation of the network itself. Also the networking layout of how the interconnects are done, how the prefixes are assigned, how the ASN numbers are assigned. So I'm bringing all those three key points.
And so what are some of the issues that you will see if you were to be elected and you have a 3-year term? During that 3-year term, what are some of the issues that you believe the ARIN Board and the ARIN community will have to manage and actively manage and find resolutions?
I think a few of our candidates before mentioned is that one thing you will find is that when a specific business or a person, they're used to a way of doing something, of operating IPv4, you will see that persons don't want to take the change. But in this world, we change, evolves happen, changes are happening every day. So one of the things I'll find is that we'll find persons not adapting to the change. So it's on us as a board now to ensure that we give the right governance, the right oversight to ensure that change is done.
And so one quick last question before we run out of time is definitely there are people who don't like change. So how have you found to be able to implement that kind of change? What is it one aspect or one thing that you can say?
One thing
helps
you
bring
can
that
say
change
is that sometimes what is the issue is that we change that we don't bring the benefits and show that evolving from this will bring a greater benefit for you to move on and to move into the future. Once you outline how it will work, they will move on to the change.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Altie. It's a pleasure chatting with you, and I wish you best of luck in the election, and hopefully we'll get to chat soon. So, thank you.
All right.
All right, and I think Shernon is up next.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Shernon. How are you?
Hi, Mike. I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, so you've seen the drill for a few people now. So if you could take about a minute to introduce yourself, and then we'll get into some questions.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to be one of the candidates for the Board of Trustees. This is an opportunity for me, and I'm really looking forward to give a contribution on the board if elected. So I have a background in telecommunications and electrical engineering. I did start my career like 30 years ago, a bit more than 30 years ago, working for a telecommunications operator in Curacao, where I'm from. And I also did, after the telecoms operator, I did work for the regulatory authority in the Netherlands and the Antilles for approximately 6 years. And after that, I went internationally. I went to work for ICANN. There I was the manager regional affairs for the Caribbean for a bit more than 3 years. And after ICANN, I also went to work for Internet Society, also manager regional affairs for the Caribbean, a bit more than 11 years. So, and nowadays I'm a strategic advisor with the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. So I have been involved with ARIN more than 16 years ago when I got involved in the internet, in the global internet ecosystem. So this, to me, it's a big opportunity for us to give a contribution to the wider development of the internet, and not only in the Caribbean or Latin America. So that's the main reason why I would like to be elected on the board.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So let me ask you a little bit. I know you said it's a broader kind of brush that's going to be here that you would deal with. But for the Caribbean, what are some of the issues that you think are the most important issues for that constituency that hopefully would be addressed if you were elected to the ARIN board?
I think it's very important when we talk about the Caribbean that we define what is the Caribbean. Because if you look at ARIN's service area, we're talking about the US, we're talking about Canada, northern islands. But the Caribbean, we have more than 30 nations. So it's not like one country. The same thing that we're talking when we talk about Africa. We assume it's just one country. No, the Caribbean is more than 30 countries. So all these 30 nations, they have different challenges. So you cannot just say, I'm going to do this for the Caribbean, because all of them have their specific challenges that we need to look at. But very high level, one of the main challenges that most of them have, it's regarding connectivity. We see connectivity issues. We see, given that they are also what we call small island development states, they have very specific challenges that no other, let's say, countries within ARIN service area don't have. So that is why we need to have some very specific strategies looking at the Caribbean. We are looking at, for example, cybersecurity. Given that most of the time the Caribbean is not well protected, you have all these cyber criminals coming to the Caribbean where they upgrade their skills, and then based on that they go elsewhere to do what they are doing. So that's basically what I would like to focus on. Not only one particular country in the Caribbean, most of the times you're talking about the big ones, but we have about 30 countries in the Caribbean that we need to develop a strategy in order for us to address the main challenges that they are facing.
So you mentioned cybersecurity as one of the items. So generally speaking, and beyond just in the Caribbean, how do you see ARIN's role with regard to cybersecurity?
I think one of the candidates already did mention RPKI, because cybersecurity is very broad. Mm-hmm. So RPKI is very important in this regard. If you look, ARIN is looking at IP numbers, but if you look at the internet in general, we have the names. This is being addressed by, for example, by ICANN with a DNSSEC, for example. And when we look at the routes, internet routes, then we have the RPKI that can play a key role in that regard. So I think we need to look at a holistic approach. Cybersecurity addresses a lot of issues, not only one particular area. So we need to look at a holistic approach in order for us to address all the main challenges that we are facing.
So in reading your bio, I saw that you have quite a bit of consultancy work that you do, particularly with internet governance. So what perspectives and with that experience and that work, what do you bring to the ARIN Board of Trustees, and how will that benefit the overall ARIN community?
Yes, if you look also at my background, I have a strong background in working with engagement with policymakers and with governments. And I think in this regard, as I did mention before, this is where I would like to focus, especially small island development states, misinformation, working with governments and other policymakers. Whether we like them or not, they are there and they are putting some policy in place that sometimes may harm the whole internet. So I think it's quite important that we work in collaboration with them to ensure that they take the right decision. So my focus, especially for these small island development states, collaborating with other colleagues on the board, if elected, is to ensure that we put the necessary strategy and attention on the Caribbean.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Shernon. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for taking the time here for the community. And I wish you luck in the election. So
thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I believe we were supposed to have one more person, but I don't see them online. Philip?
He is not here.
Okay. Okay. Well,
he said he had to step away to take care of a family matter. So I was going to try and come back, but it doesn't look like he's been able to.
Okay. Well, then it looks like we've reached the end. And I want to thank all the candidates. I know some had to drop off, but I want to thank all the candidates for their time and taking my questions. I hope that it was helpful for the community to be able to get to know our candidates a little bit better and in a more engaging format. I know that there are some election reminders, but I'm going to turn it over to Hollis so that she can go over those for everybody. But again, thank you to everyone. Thank you to the staff for putting this together. Thank you for the candidates and of course, all of you who are attending and watching this. And I'm looking forward to see the results of the election. Hope we have a great election this year. So hope you have a lot of participation. Get out there and vote. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, candidates. Just a couple last reminders in closing for those who are participating as voters in the election, that pre-recorded candidate speeches will be shown starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern next Thursday during ARIN 54. Those will be available. They'll be played live at the meeting, so you'll be able to watch them there. They will also be uploaded to the ARIN Elections website, along with the recording of this candidate forum for review, and those will be available through the election period. Voting will open at 3 p.m. next Thursday, the 24th. And it will remain open until 7 p.m. on November 1st, and we will be announcing the winners of the election in the following week. Remember that voting contacts for eligible organizations are able to cast their ballots through their ARIN online account. And if you need any assistance, there will be a help desk at the meeting. If you are at ARIN 54, we will have someone on site to answer questions there. And otherwise, you can always email elections@arin.net for support. Really want to thank everybody for participating today. Happy to have you here. Look forward to a great meeting next week and a successful election. And we will see folks in Toronto. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.